What's up, everybody? I'm Eric Hansen with Backpacking TV. Welcome to another edition of Fresh Gear Friday. Today, I'm going to be talking about all about footwear and the pieces of gear that I've used on the trail over the last year. And I really want to highlight some favorites as well as give you some caution if you're going to be thinking about buying some footwear. Let's break it down, starting now. Okay. First up on my list is the Salewa Dropline Mid. Now, these are a really cool piece of footwear. And they are actually different than any other piece of footwear that I've really used this year. And I think that they're pretty cool, so I wanted to highlight them. They advertise that this is the Blisterless shoe. And that obviously caught my attention because blisters are one of the main nightmares. Blisters are one of the main nightmares for backpacking. If you got a blister that you develop, you're just not having any fun. How in the world can a company advertise blisterless footwear? Well, what they do is there are some caveats. They say that if you pair this with the right sock and that you mold this inner to your feet, therefore you will not develop any blisters. So that is a little bit of a dubious claim because I feel like it gives them a little bit of an out because they can just say, well, you obviously didn't pair it with the right shoe, or you didn't pair it with the right sock, or you didn't properly get the footwear molded to your feet. But that being said, I used this on a really intense backpacking trip through canyon country of Utah, carrying a ton of weight, and I didn't develop any blisters. So I thought that that was pretty neat. And I actually thought that this was one of the coolest shoes that I've used over the year. Now, would I endorse this shoe for everybody out there? Not necessarily. One of the main differences is that this particular model isn't waterproof. So it's breathable, which is great for desert hikers out there. And if you are a fast, light hiker that really likes light footwear, that wants a really athletic shoe, well, this is actually an awesome shoe. It feels like a running shoe that just keeps coming up your ankle. It's a really good piece of footwear for ankle support. One of the things that I really like is this upper ankle. It's got kind of this mesh. It's basically almost like a little gator action, and it just comes up and is really, really comfortable. So if you can see the way that that piece of footwear has this cool mesh upper as well as kind of like a little gator spot right there. I really liked the feel of this ankle. And then also there's a lot of rocker in this boot. So that means there's a lot of curve, both in the heel and in the toe. So as you are really moving down the trail, look at how that rolls. You can see that rolls way more than other shoes. So this is pretty cool. But if you are hiking in wet conditions, this isn't the one for you. I do believe that there is a Gore-Tex version of this. So if you're into that, then I highly suggest it. Okay, the strengths of this shoe lie here in this tread, very aggressive. I feel like it was rock solid, and I really liked that a lot. And these were some of the most aggressive pairs of footwear that I think I've worn all year. So I definitely like these. Okay, so some things that Salewa advertises is that this is a shock absorbent support and protection emphasis shoe that is great for speed hiking tours in alpine terrain. So I can definitely see how this would be a crossover for like people who are running and doing very fast missions up in the mountains. The downside of this shoe is that it's $200. So that's a pretty pricey model. It's not crazy. It's just at the upper end of what I think is a reasonable priced footwear. So at $200, I think that this is more for like the elite hiker out there. But if you're just more casual, I wouldn't recommend these. Okay, that's the one pair that I thought was definitely standout of the year. Moving along on my whole, everybody's commenting on how many shoes I have, which is a lot. I get it. But I'm constantly trying to test new gear, and so it just comes with a job. Okay, this is the Rush Mid Gore-Tex from Scarpa. Now, I really liked this one as well. I also did a Burley backpacking trip in canyon country, And this one had some really exceptional treads. The grip was awesome. I really loved the ankle support. This is kind of more of a traditional boot. And it has the Gore-Tex, so it's a little bit more waterproof. It is waterproof. The interesting downside that I found about this one is a very unique feature. I don't know if there's still, oh, yep, can you see that? There is still sand locked in my, yeah, look at this. I can like draw smiley faces. There is still so much sand, literally. I don't know if you can see that. I'll have to move the camera here. There is still so much sand that has found its way into, in between this outer membrane and stuck between that layer and then the Gore-Tex layer. So that has nowhere to go except for out the top. So what that meant is that as I was hiking through sandy terrain, it really trapped a lot of sand and became very uncomfortable after a while, and created some hotspot pressure points on the top as this just filled up with sand, and then I'd have to stop and just keep doing that. So that's like bonkers. I've never seen that out of any other shoe. Okay, this also comes in at $199 according to Scarpa's website. So again, a high-end shoe, but this is, aside from this crazy sand thing, I actually really love this shoe. And I have found myself using it over other trips as well. I still got to figure out how to get all of that sand out. But if you are not backpacking in this sandy terrain, like this sand is really fine. It's not like beach sand, it's like flour. So if you are backpacking in terrain like that, I wouldn't recommend it. However, just about anywhere else, that is a unique thing to the Utah desert. If you're backpacking anywhere else, the Scarpa Rush Gore-Tex has been a pretty killer boot for me. So I definitely like this one a lot. Moving down the line, this is the Aerios, I believe I'm saying that right, a shoe from Arc'teryx. Now, Arc'teryx is not necessarily known for their footwear. So when they started branching out from jackets and things like that, and made a Gore-Tex shoe, I was like, please send me one. I would love to test these out. So I definitely hiked in these in some, I would say, wet terrain. This was up in BC, Canada. I was hiking in these. And what I found was that this is a very good lightweight shoe. So Gore-Tex shoes are often a little bit heavier, and I really liked the lightweightness of this to it. And I actually am a big fan of the low-cut shoe. Now, this low-cut shoe is not the best for really mushy, like wet terrain, like muddy stuff, because just if that mud comes up, it's really easy for that mud to get up and over. The other downside that I found with this shoe is that this material, while waterproof, it does tend to hold moisture more than other boots. So whereas other boots, the water will just shed right off and not touch it, this won't get into your foot box. Your feet will stay dry, but this outer will stay damp for a while, and it will just feel wet, even though it's not wet inside. Like, because this is damp, your foot kind of transfers that feeling. And so I would like to see them try to clean that up a little bit. But that being said, I love the grip. I love the lightweight nature. I felt like super agile in these shoes. And they're lower on the ankle support, obviously because they don't have the high ankle. But I really liked these as well. Hey.
Quick little break while you're doing that.
Oh.
Here's your food.
My lovely assistant has given me lunch. Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
So on a positive side, actually quite a few positives about this shoe. It's $140, so I like that price point a lot more. Now there is less material, less shoe going on here, so I would expect it to be a little bit cheaper. But that's, to me, a pretty good price for a fairly technologically advanced shoe. I really like this toe. It's got kind of more of a lip to protect your toes if you are running and going fast, to protect kicking rocks, kicking boulders, kicking junk on the trail. So I do like that. And it's just very comfortable. If you want to wear these as an urban shoe too, I have, and I like how they look. So I'm a fan of that. And that tread on there is definitely pretty nice. If you can tell, it looks pretty normal, but it really feels good on like climbing and stuff like that. So this is a great fast, light shoe for anybody who likes to do kind of more like trail run kind of stuff, kind of like the Salewa shoe, but with the low cut. So I'm a big fan of this one. It says it right here what model it is. It is the Aerios FL from Arc'teryx. So cool piece of footwear there. Now this next one from Keen is the NXIS. And it's still got my mud caked on it from Sedona. So I did some testing with this one down in Sedona originally, and that caked mud is still sticking around on there. Now this one is definitely higher on the waterproofness, very high waterproofness, low on the breathability. So I do like how this one was about the best that I've tested all year in terms of shedding water. And then not having any of that water, that moisture linger around and kind of absorb into the materials and then become heavier and make my feet feel like they're holding on to that wetness. So this one was a cool boot, but I have found myself continually going towards other footwear throughout the course of the year. Let me take a quick little food break while it's hot. Yeah. Okay, this one retails in at 190 bucks. So again, it's a higher end boot, kind of at the upper end. Now, one thing that I really dislike about this boot is this branding here. I feel like I just don't like it when brands have ultra obvious lettering and names blasted across their stuff, especially for a boot. Like, I don't know, sometimes if I'm wearing a shirt, it's like, yeah, cool, I want to represent a brand I like, but for footwear, I kind of appreciate the little bit more subtlety. So again, some things that really stand out with this one were these traction lugs that I thought were really good, and then the way that it shed the waterproofness to it. I don't use this boot a lot because of the lack of breathability. Where I'm hiking in the desert and around the Southwest, I often really crave that breathability that this one just I didn't find it to be as comfortable for my feet with that. So again, great shoe. But if you're somewhere wet, these are a killer boot. Okay, I tested a lot of footwear, so sorry this video is going to probably get longer than I anticipated. I have gotten my handy fact checker, aka my laptop over here. So this is the TR1 Mesh from Astral. Now, Astral has been making shoes that are great for boating and like kayaking and stuff like that. And this is one of my favorite water shoes, actually. So you can, I don't know if you can tell, but this is a very minimalistic shoe. Almost no fabric here at all. And what fabric is there is very, very, very breathable. So this is actually an awesome shoe if you're gonna be in and out of water a lot. So I've done some backpacking in Utah Canyon Country. This is what I changed into when I was going through quicksand and water and creek hiking. Because I still needed all the foot protection of a shoe, but I wanted the water drainage of a water sandal kind of thing. So I really like these. These are $130 and they are super lightweight. So I like hiking in these, even in dry conditions. The worst thing that you can do with these is hike somewhere where you want to keep your feet dry, but maybe there's like a little bit of mud and stuff like that, or a little bit of snow on the trail, because that water will just penetrate through here ultra fast. There's almost no protection if you're in damp conditions and you want your feet to remain dry. So this is not where they would excel if that's where you're backpacking. But I go canyoneering in these, I go creek hiking in these, I go swimming in these if I want to keep my feet like protected in murky water and things like that, say like in a canyon situation. So I really like these, and at $130, these are a pretty good deal. So that's kind of like an expensive sandal or something like that. So that's a really good one. The TR1 Mesh from Astral. 2 pairs of footwear left. This is the Rock DFS from Aku. Now, Aku is a brand that I've really come along a long ways with lately because they're an Italian brand that's not very well known here in the US. And I really like them a lot. Now, this is actually my 3rd pair of footwear from Aku, and I've used these heavily. You can see how gnarly these have gotten. So these have gotten heavy use in the jungle of Peru. These were one of my main shoes that I took for a big set of treks in Peru, and they held up really well. Although I learned later that that wasn't really their intent. This was more of like the intent of this shoe was like an approach shoe, and I was treating it like a trekking shoe. So I kind of felt a little bit silly because it did start to break down. And one thing that they did here is they have 2 lacing systems. And so they have this kind of pull system right here for your toe box, and then this other lace to really cinch up around your ankle, closer to your ankle and over the arch of your foot. So having that mutual shoe, having 2 lacing systems for one shoe is actually pretty interesting. And some of it I really liked, although what I did find was that I really had to crank on this system a lot in order to get my toes appropriately, the toe box appropriately tight. So I would say that this isn't my favorite shoe from Aku, but part of it was me. I was just using it like a trekking shoe when it's more of like an approach shoe that you'd use on the way to a climb or something like that. It is waterproof, it is Gore-Tex, and it held up amazingly well going through in and out of boggy, muddy, crazy conditions in the jungle. So kudos to them for that. So this is $190, $189 for this shoe. And again, I would say if you are interested in doing like hiking, climbing, trekking, hiking and climbing, then this is definitely a good shoe. If you're really interested in a more traditional trekking shoe, then I probably wouldn't recommend this one. Also, funny note, I think it must be on this one. I used this for 5 weeks straight, heavily trekking through gnarly conditions. And on the very last day, as I was taking these off to get on the airplane, this lace broke here. So that was just like kind of perfect timing. But one of the things that I've seen with any of these laces that are this thin is that they tend to break. So just be warned on any footwear that offers this kind of lace. They always tend to break down on me. So anyway, I am a fan of Aku. I'd give them a C on this pair, but my all-time favorite pair is from Aku. So this is the Selvetica Gore-Tex low cut shoe, which I think they discontinued the low cut, but the high cut still remains, or the mid cut and the high cut, I believe, still remain. But this has been honestly the shoe that I keep going back to over and over again. And I like this one so much. It has that lace system that you just tug like that to tighten up. And honestly, I wear this like a casual sandal or like a casual sock around the van and stuff like that, if I just want to treat them like a slip-on. And then it's very easy to tighten those up, and I really like that. I also like this. See, I'm a big fan of waterproof shoes that have this more kind of hard shell layer to them rather than like the fabric of what I showed you with the Arc'teryx shoe, because it just sheds water so much better. You can see that this one is starting to see some wear and tear on that, but I have used these shoes heavily for 2 years straight. So still my favorite shoe, the best traction of any of them. And I think that this shoe took me one trip before I truly fell in love with them. The first time I put them on, I felt like they were stiff because of the outer material on here. It felt stiff to me. But after breaking them in with one trip, I can't stop wearing them. These are definitely my go-to. Okay, just to note, this one is a $170 shoe. So for also the price point being $20 to $30 less than a lot of these other boots, that is a freaking good deal. However, I do believe they've discontinued this low cut, which definitely makes me sad because I have truly loved them. I'm gonna have to try out the mid to see if it feels as good as these low cuts. They are $190, so there is more material, more cost, of course. So I'm definitely gonna try them out. But I have been really pleased. The Rock DFS, this one failed, but I have been using this one for 2 years and it has not failed at all. One of these little laces has started to friction out, so that is going to be concerning because I don't know how I will fix that. Once that goes down, I assume the lacing system kind of dies. So that is something to note, whereas with other lacing systems, you can always just replace the lace. And that'll be in the end of these shoes, unless I send them back for a repair. But yeah, that is the footwear that I have used. Thanks for sticking with me if you made it through all these pairs of footwear. That is a lot of shoes to be testing in the last year. And honestly, there's been some amazing ones. I really haven't had many duds. So there's been some ones that are just okay. Again, the highlight being the Aku Selveticas, the okays ones being the Keen NXIS. Everything else has been stellar, but kind of niche-y. So it just depends on what you're looking for. If you have any questions about footwear, you want to hit me up, well, hit me up and I would love to help you out, answer some questions on shoes, boots, sandals, all the things footwear related, because I like the topic. Now, it's not as always sexy as some of the other gear pieces, but I think if you have the right pair of footwear, you can go almost anywhere on the planet. So getting the piece that feels good to you, keeps those blisters down, it's something beautiful. So that's it for me. I'm Eric Hansen with Backpacking TV. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.